Nice to have an appreciative audience. Thank you guys all so much for being here.
Thank you guys for watching the movie.
So I'll be taking some, I'll be fed some questions from the audience here throughout the Q&A, but I'll get started with a couple of my own just to get a little backstory about this production. Mark, tell a little bit about the start of this project, how it came together, and how you first originated it.
Yeah, I'm a big schmaltzy movie fan. I love like Same Time Next Year and Somewhere in Time, and I can even, if I have the flu, I can even go Nicholas Sparks and like get that. If the vulnerability's high, I can go that way.
That's a really nice admission.
Yeah, I go there. I go there. And I've always been kind of like afraid to put that into my work a little bit. I'm always curbing that edge in myself because I'm like, I don't want to spill my melancholy all over everybody. But this one,
Gross.
I was like, what if I spill my melancholy all over Sarah Paulson? It'd be great. Yeah.
No thanks.
You love it and you know it.
I do, it's true.
Yeah.
That scene got edited out. That was my
Yeah, and then so I basically came up with this basic storyline of two ex-high school lovers and what would it mean to see each other 20 years later, and that was about all I had when I called Sarah, and we had known each other a little bit socially because she is really close with Amanda Peet, who is in my show Togetherness.
Woo! Ow!
Nice.
Never.
Woo! Woo! Ow!
I promised him I'd always make that noise anytime Togetherness was mentioned.
It was supposed to be woo woo ow. You left out one of the woos.
Ow!
There you go. Good.
Okay. Always the director.
Yeah. And then and I was like, hey, look, I want to do this movie. I don't have that much right now. It's going to be about us, and it's going to be a lot of our chemistry. There'll be a lot of improvising, and at that point, things got hairy.
So Sarah, you've played such a wide range of roles, especially over the last several years. I mean, each project you've been involved with seems so different from the last. But what particularly about this project appealed to you? It's, I think, maybe a somewhat different, more playful character than some of the roles you've had recently.
Playful, the Marsha Clark, more playful.
More playful than Marsha Clark. Yes, this was very different than anything I've done in the last, really a big chunk of time. I didn't know that that's why I was saying yes to it, because as Mark said, he didn't come to me with it's going to be this, and here's the script, and I'm sending it to you now. Do you want to play this part? It was.
I shat the bed on the pitch. Let's face it. Come on, it wasn't a strong pitch.
No, it was just I had never worked in that way, and I've said this a couple times. I'm a real nerd about a script. I'm like, on page 74, I know that this happens, and I stand behind it. Oh, I've got really good reflexes.
Yeah, you kicked me. She kicked me through the whole goddamn movie. This is what she does.
And I really feel very safe working that way, knowing just exactly structurally what's in front of me, what the blueprint is, and there was a blueprint, but there were no walls.
At
and
best.
There were no, yeah,
at best.
It was scary for me because I'd never done it, but Amanda really, she just kept saying to me, if you're going to do it, these are the guys to do it with, and so I just jumped in.
And Alex, you knew Mark. Did you guys meet originally on The League, right?
Right.
You were
Yep.
a cinematographer on The League, right? And so you knew Mark from that. How did you get hooked into this process?
I was a cameraman on The League, and then I brought Mark a documentary that I was making called Asperger's or Us, and we teamed up to finish that doc. And then he emailed me and said, hey, I got this idea for a movie. Do you want to do it? I need a director DP. And I started drafting this smart-ass response saying, like, I know a couple great director DPs that I could recommend. My wife was like, don't be an asshole. Just say yes. And yeah, just be very thankful and appreciative. So I sent the straightforward, thank you, yes, please. Yeah.
So curious, like first from a directorial standpoint, I think it's safe to say that this, though it's maybe a little bit more on the, it's a little bit more emotionally, I don't want to say melodramatic, but there's a little bit more heavy drama than maybe your average Duplass project. But it's definitely very much.
You were so careful and sweet about that. You're like, I gotta get these words right. It's a soap opera. Oh shit, no, I'm gonna say that.
Melancholic.
Yeah.
But it's certainly very much within the Duplass canon in certain respects. So how did that work in terms of you guys working together on that? Obviously, you know, there's a style that's already very much associated with your work previously. How did you guys talk that out in terms of navigating what Alex was going to be bringing to it and what you were going
no, it's a good question. This was the least prepared of any movie I've ever been involved with, and it was purposefully that way. I had the idea. I wrote a 2-page outline. I brought it to Sarah, I brought it to Alex, I brought it to our 3 female producers, Sid, Zan, and Mel, and we all started doing these meetings once a week, and we would talk about, okay, how can we make this story a little bit better? What are some personal things that we could bring to this story that we can then, you know, hide later so that none of our ex-girlfriends or boyfriends get mad at us? And we really built this story that was, I guess in my opinion, I try to build movies that I know can succeed, that I know can do well. I see Craig Johnson out in the audience. He wrote this movie, The Skeleton Twins. We produced it. We knew that movie was going to be good. Like, we knew it. Blue Jay, we were scared shitless. We were like, we could fall on our faces here. We have 7 days to shoot this movie. There is a very loose outline. We're going to be improvising.
Did you hear the gasps in
We heard
the
the
audience?
gasps, yeah.
So
And
There were
specifically-
3 producers cheering in the audience.
Yeah, exactly. But specifically, there's, like, as you have seen, not that much going on. So if Sarah and I don't find the magic and the stuff between us, the movie is just going to be dead. And the whole time we were shooting, we were like, okay, this has the chance to be really lyrical and patient and sweet, or just fucking boring as shit. So we were scared, but I think it was part of what led to, I guess, to the vitality and the fun of making the movie. And so, you know, we went in with something that was about a 20-page outline, and then we would shoot everything in chronological order, and we'd all have dinner together at night. We were a small cast and crew of maybe 20 people, and we would talk about what we did that day. We would talk about, okay, it was more awkward between them than we thought it would be, so let's adjust the next scenes accordingly. Or, you know, Mark has such tremendous sex appeal. Sarah's just, like, really freaking out about it, you know? So we needed to, like, deal with that, which...
That conversation got old.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, that's not the first time
I don't know why I'm laughing so hard.
Why is that so funny?
It was very brave for both of you to fight through that. So, Alex, what stylistically, what did you want to switch up? I mean, there are some differences from the way, for instance, Togetherness Might Be Shot. Black and white, for one, was a big thing. What were some of your thoughts in terms of stylistic changes you wanted to make to the form?
Well, I would say that I had a little bit of a doc background, and we talked about how, in a way, we were making a doc about Jim and Amanda spending these 24 hours together. And there were certain scenes that, you know, we really let the dialogue flow, and that you know, informed us on the characters and where the scene was going. And then there were other times where we did more one-ers, and we really kind of let things flow, and that kind of, you know, for me, that's fun as a documentarian or as a cinematographer to kind of be reactive to, I mean, when you got these guys doing amazing things, it's like, just let it breathe and let it flow, and don't cut it, and don't stop, yeah.
I think, though, like, having a DP director was really important, and we talked about it was important for the director to be holding the camera in this one. And I think there are a lot of scenes where you can see and feel Alex's direction, like in the dancing scene with the Annie Lennox song. He's kind of moving in towards us, and he's finding things, and he's going out of focus here and there, and then he would drift over at a moment and find her wedding ring. Like, that wasn't written in the script that, oh, he would show her ring here to, you know, sort of make poignant the fact that she is married. And he did all those kinds of things as a documentarian. It's an instinct thing, and that was a big part of this movie. Is like, we were like, should we shoot in black and white? And we started talking about it, and we're like, that's pretentious. We shouldn't shoot in black and white. It's going to come across pretentious. But then our instincts, and as cheesy as it sounds, our hearts were like, but we want it to be in black and white. And we kind of like followed our hearts like little kids in this movie, and that was like a big runner through this whole thing. Is like, why I wanted to make this movie is I miss being like Jim and Amanda. I was like that when I was 16. I had overly dramatic relationships with my high school girlfriend, and I look back and I'm like, I was such an idiot and so stupid, and I'm constantly trying to get a piece of that person back because I just miss it desperately. And that feeling was what we chased for the whole movie, basically.
Those winds of fucking change.
Winds of. By the way, that is a direct quote from my journal when I was 15, just so you know. The other stuff I wrote, but I did that, guys. I did that.
So for Sarah and Mark here, I was curious a little bit about obviously you bring these characters to life so fully, and there's such a lived-in feeling to the characters, and I think probably required for that is having a pretty good understanding of the backstory. Luckily, of course, a lot of that backstory is in the script. You do find out a lot about what they've gone through in their lives. But was there more preparation there? I mean, you were on a really tight schedule, so it probably wasn't happening a lot on set. But was there more preparation to sort of find these characters and their emotional core through backstory or preparation or discussions of what they were about prior to that?
It was like 3 or 4 2-hour sessions
Yeah.
where we all met. And there's some stuff we talked about that didn't make it in the film. We actually shot some stuff that didn't make it in the film. We toyed around with these ideas that maybe Jim had been like, kind of like following her on Facebook, and they were like, "Oh, that made him look like a stalker." Creepy.
Exactly.
All right, we'll lose that.
Yeah.
We didn't do a ton of that like traditional like. They were born on this day, you know. I mean, honestly, I really believed that. Like from the minute I met Sarah, I met you at like one of those stupid award season parties, like maybe a year and a half ago or something, and I was like I felt bad about it because I was like so surprised at how you were. I was like, oh, that's not the girl from Carol. That's not Marcia Clark. It was this like really giggly, goofy, bubbly, fart-joking, awesome person. And I was like, I've never seen that person on screen. And we had kind of a nice chemistry, and we could hang out and talk. And I think because we shared Amanda as a friend, that helped. And so I was like, if we lean on this, I know we'll at least have something interesting. So that's kind of that was our backstory, basically. It was just that energy.
In terms of details of life, Mark, obviously you've already hinted at some of these details being stolen directly out of your life. Sarah, were you pulling things out of your life as well and dropping them into the movie?
Not in an overt, supremely conscious way, but I think anytime you're acting, that is coming with you because you are coming with you. So I think it's always part of it. But I wasn't...
It's less about leaning on true facts. Like, I think the Greyhound scene is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Like, Sarah, when she talks about animals, can't do it for 30 seconds without crying because of just the way she is. And, like, has a Greyhound situation. I don't remember what your connection is. You had
Dude, I don't
Greyhound.
really want to talk about
You don't want, yeah, 'cause we don't want to do this right now, yeah. So
Mark
that's a good
knows
example
that
of once I
It'll be a
discovered
great moment
that,
if you cry on stage.
yeah,
so.
I was like, okay, so you're going to do a monologue about Greyhounds, and it's going to be awesome. And we kind of dialed that in a little bit, and I was like, you know, just to give you a little insight for whatever it's worth of, like, me as the writer saying, like, okay, this monologue you talk about should be about how Greyhounds are broken, but how they have the capacity to feel young despite the fact that they're broken. And Jim feels like that, and Amanda feels like that. So don't make any direct references. Just start talking about those Greyhounds. I'll feed you things and prompt you as needed. And then Alex was shooting and kind of knowing how to drift back and forth and when he should be on her versus when he should be on me in that shot. And it was all very instinctual, and first take is a little messy and you're figuring it out, and then it all kind of just comes together on like take 2 or 3, and it's really fun. It feels like the moment when, you know, musicians are in a studio recording a record and they haven't written the songs yet, and they're writing and recording at the same time, and it's messy. And the sound quality isn't perfect, but you get a nice little alchemy, and it feels kind of special.
We do have some questions here from the audience, and since this is an event co-hosted by SAG-AFTRA, thanks, by the way, to SAG-AFTRA for supporting us. For that reason, some of those questions are a little actor-focused to some degree. So, first question from the audience, Sarah. Do you, we mentioned a little bit your selection of this role. Do you have a sort of strategic diversification strategy with your roles, or is it more just things come to you? Or do you have sort of a longer-term plan of how you select roles, or is it just as they come and go?
I don't. I mean, I don't know how anyone can do that. Does it really work that way? I think maybe if you have your first movie at Sundance and you're becoming an enormous movie star right out of the gate or something, and you're 20 years old and no one's ever seen you before, then maybe all of a sudden you're inundated with scripts that are just piled high and you're just tossing them around going, maybe this one, oh no, this one.
That's what happened to me, so,
yeah, that's your experience, right? Yeah, that never happened to me. So every choice I've made was often by virtue of there was nothing else in front of me to be done. and so...
It's a lot of integrity in that approach, you know. I think that really,
well, it was just that thing
really
of I
special.
was an actor who wanted to work, and I wanted to work more than I wanted to do anything. And so sometimes I would find myself doing things I wasn't super excited about, and other times I couldn't believe my great good fortune that I got to do it. And then, you know, once I landed in the Ryan Murphy world, it was sort of the first time I felt like, oh, for whatever reasons, things that are still mysterious to me, he just kept throwing me the ball and giving me more outrageous things to do and trusting me with more diverse characters. And I just thought I was very lucky. But I've never had a plan. I mean, I had a plan when I was 20 and started acting and thought, you know, boy, did I want to be Julia Roberts, you know? It was like, that's what I wanted to do. And then it just became something else because nobody wanted me to be Julia Roberts, actually. And so, you know, I just, nobody was looking for that. So I just sort of went where things led me. And
Worked out.
Huh?
It worked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, right. Yeah. Okay. Is there another question for someone else?
But then in a good way.
No, I know. I just get embarrassed.
Sarah's excellent at taking compliments, if you guys can't tell. Your face is on fire. You're red. Your face is on fire. See, I love compliments, so if you guys want to send them my way, I luxuriate in them. I'll expand upon them.
Not a ton of them in there.
There's
eh?
actually no
Yeah.
compliments for you in this file, sorry.
I don't believe it.
No,
I
of
love how
course
you
there
love
are.
compliments.
I wrote 4 of them and sent them in. All 4 of the good questions
Anywhere?
are from me.
Anyone?
Here's a question for Mark. Mark, do you love the movie Dune as much as your character in Togetherness?
I wrote that. That was my question for you.
You know, I feel really bad about confessing this because I realize that people love Dune so much. I don't know anything about Dune.
Oh, no.
I really don't. I just thought it was the sweetest thing in the world for a grown man to be trying to stage a play of Dune.
You know, it's a real thing, like a real thing.
I guess there are like Dune heads, as it
yeah.
were, or such. And I think that's awesome. And I have my own like really dorky stuff that I am into. But yeah, we had to do a bunch of research actually to kind of like figure out what that was and dig into it. Yeah.
You probably, if this goes online, you will probably lose like 10,000 followers tomorrow.
You lost the Doonies.
Yeah, don't insult Dune.
Yeah.
Another question for Sarah. How is the preparation different? Obviously, you're coming off of the Marcia Clark performance there. How is the difference in terms of preparation for a role like this where there's nothing to base it on, that you're really creating it, you know, really just from words on a page versus what you need to do when you're actually performing a role that is a real living character that existed once before?
She exists currently, too. It's weird. For me, there was no shortage of footage for me to watch and no shortage of things for me to read. And I just often was watching it right up until they said action. I would be tossing my iPad underneath my desk in the courtroom. And I loved it. Like I said, I get a bit nerdy about that stuff, and I like to become very consumed by it, and I really enjoy it. This was scary because I didn't have all of that to focus on. You can sometimes funnel all your... I was very terrified about playing Marcia Clark. I did not know how I was going to do it, if I could do it, and so the way for me to sort of move beyond the fear of it was to just really focus on the text and everything I could read so that I could make that, you know, all that mattered was don't worry about trying to succeed here, just try to be truthful and forget the rest, which I think is always important to do in life in general, but no one's asking me my life advice, so I'll keep that to myself. But this was scary precisely because there was nothing for me to hide behind. I couldn't put my fear in the research pot. I had to sort of confront the fact that this was going to make me feel a little vulnerable and exposed to my shortcomings as an actress, my shortcomings as a person. I just didn't know how open I was going to be able to be, how willing I was going to be able to be without, you know, a sort of dog-eared, really moist, wet, papered text that I've been carrying around like a goon, you know? So it's very different. Yeah. That's a long answer, huh? Yeah.
And a good one. So a question actually for each of you. So you guys obviously had an idea going into this, but Mark, you've mentioned that this was a project that was much less structured than what you've done previously. As a result, how did, in terms of the end product, how closely does it resemble the vision that you had early on and the way that you guys thought of it when you were first starting? It's really a question for everyone. What did it look like early on in your head, and does it look like that in the end? And if not, what are some of the big changes?
That's a really great question. I sent
that one in too.
You did?
Yeah, I totally did.
You did a great job.
Yeah, I did a good one with that one.
What about the one about my pecs?
No, I did not send the one about your pecs. No.
Right. Nope. That was you. Okay, good. Yeah, the final product ending up like I imagined it. I guess the answer is I didn't really have an imagination of what I thought it would be. I didn't know what it was going to be. It was a chase. I've always admired the Coen brothers because maybe I'm projecting, but I have the sense that they see the whole movie in their head before they make it, the way it's just so laid out, and I don't know how to do that. I'm usually chasing something. This was the biggest and most elusive chase in my mind. So I didn't know if it was going to be just really sad the whole time. It's definitely feels a little funnier in the room than I thought it might be. Like people tend to find some of the humor in it, which is great. I'm happy about that. We shot a couple of different things that could have happened maybe at the end, and we ended up kind of like finding what we liked. So that was a little bit of a surprise. I'm trying to think what else kind of came up or changed.
Well, we always knew she was going to spit eggs on you.
Yeah. No, that was a surprise.
That was a great surprise.
I waited till she had a mouthful of eggs, and I was like, I'm going to try this joke and see what happens.
Amazing.
And we got it. I was really excited.
We didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I feel like we all were on the same page as far as like the tone. We kind of knew what the tone was going to be on set, and it kind of, we all felt like we were on the same page as far as like the energy and the tone. A lot of surprises came up, but I feel like the tone of it was there by day one.
Did you guys end up? I mean, I know you were shooting for only 7 days, so you obviously didn't have a ton of extra footage. But were there major plot points?
Oh, there's a sequel. No, I'm just kidding. There's not.
Were there major things that you pulled out in the end? Were there like big twists that didn't make it in, or anything along those lines?
No, the movie as it's plotted is kind of what you see there. We had this really fun idea because there was a dumb waiter outside of the house, and we were like, oh, how cool would it be if we he lowers. I was gonna lower you down.
Lower me into it.
Yeah, I was gonna lower her down, and we're gonna have this like dreamy shot of her descending into the house and getting into that play mode. And we were all so excited about it. And then we got there and we started looking at it, and we're like,
I was like, I'm not getting in it.
This doesn't feel safe.
It's cold out.
It's cold out.
It's late. We've done a lot of stuff already. Yeah.
But no, it was kind of as plotted. So in that way, I guess the movie stayed on the rails, but in terms of all the little nuances and the energy, and I would say if anything, like of the accordion of the movie, of what stretched and what diminished the playtime with us, we thought that might get annoying and boring, and when we tested that, we found the audiences really enjoyed watching them, listening to the tapes, watching them play at dinner. So we played that longer than I thought we could sustain in terms of people's attention span or interest.
I have to say, I went back and reread that 2-page treatment that we started with pretty recently, and not a word is wasted. There is a very, very deep, layered story, and I'm kind of brown-nosing here. I'm sorry, I'm being really cheesy, but there is a lot in those 2 pages, like still, that resonates. And
see how I accept this compliment? Watch this. Thank you, Alex.
You're a better man than I. Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about how much you like my story.
But it's true. There's 2 pages, and there's 2 pages to start off, and that there's not a word was wasted.
And how many of the details how many of the details of this script itself are really improvised? I think I've asked this question of you every single time I've done a Q&A with you, because your films feel so naturalistic. But how much of it really was just coming out of people's mouths in the moment, and how much of it were you guys working out on set before that?
It's tricky. I would sometimes write pages the night before for these scenes to give us like a little bit of an anchor if it felt like it could be swimming in the sea of infinite possibility in a bad way. So almost every word that you hear is not from a line of dialogue that is written. So in that way, the film is from a dialogue sense, almost entirely improvised. From an emotional beat sense, I don't know that much new came up on set. It was kind of all there. But, you know, the little banter, things like, you know, you saying like how fresh it was that you were chosen to open up for, you know, Public Enemy, and me calling you the greatest female rap artist of all time. Like none of that stuff was kind of scripted. We would just kind of fart around and try and find those things. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not like we were rehearsing lines of dialogue for sure.
And what was that like? I assume there's not too many lines in an American Horror Story episode that are totally just coming out of your head in the moment. What was it like working on a project like this where it was much more improvisational?
As I said, I was scared. Yeah. I was just scared. But I tried to just look at his face and those pecs and just sort of, you know, go with it. But it was outside my comfort zone for sure.
Had you done? I mean, obviously, in any actor training, there's a lot of improvisation involved. But had there been any film projects that it resembled?
No,
this?
I mean there are moments on Horror Story that I do in fact improvise. There might have even been one or two on People vs. O.J. that I did as well, but not in any kind of substantive way that would compare to this at all. Mm-hmm. So I've just never worked this way ever. No, and I don't even think I had an improvisation class in school. Right. Because I didn't go to college. I went to high school. We didn't do that.
It's funny watching the film. It's almost hard to imagine anyone else being in the room. It seems so intimate. Did you guys keep that crew really small, and what was that like?
Yeah, it was kept pretty small. We had a second shooter to make sure we could get the moments. We had you know, and we were in a small house most of the movie, so we tried to keep it pretty small. But it wasn't like, you know, a film school set. There was enough people around to do what we needed to do. I don't know how you felt, but I didn't feel like, you know, the presence of anything. It felt like we were just kind of doing a little play, and it was mostly feeling. It was kind of the three of us. That's kind of what we. It was
nice, sort of always, particularly in scenes of great intimacy between us, having Alex, you know, there and always sort of being the third character really in the movie for me. Just to sort of, it was a nice feeling of trust and intimacy that was nice.
Alex, were you doing main camera as well as directing all through all that, or?
If it was a single camera thing, it would be me with the camera. Most of the time when it was, you know, cameras crossing, I'd be back at the monitor. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when it was a single camera, I'd be the creepy guy in the room. Yeah.
Did you have a particular strategy for making sure, I mean, besides having the second camera shoot, were the things that you were doing early on to try to create that intimacy, or were there particular strategies to capture all of that?
Instinct, man.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, good instincts, really.
Nah, these guys are great. Just I don't know, doc background.
Right. Yeah, that definitely helps having that work. So I think we're just about out of time here. Do we have any more audience questions that have been collected?
Oh my God! Here they come.
Here they come. Where was the film shot? It seems it's like actually a pretty important character in the film.
Yeah, the film was shot in a town called Crestline, which is about 80 minutes outside of Los Angeles. It's like the first mountain town in the San Bernardino Mountains as you head towards Big Bear. And it was really built to be this wonderful little vacation community in the late 50s. They have a pretty intense meth problem there, and the town has not done so well. I still love to vacation there with my family. I find it beautiful and kind of sad. Sarah had a great time there.
No.
Sarah got some visitors at night to her hotel room, just kind of hanging out outside of her window.
Yeah.
So I felt a little bad, because I was like, you know, I know you're doing all these like big budget TV shows. Like, come and be like gritty and indie with us in Crestline, and it'll be so cool. Little did I know it was a little grittier than I wanted it to be for her. But it's a great place to shoot. They were happy to have us there, and the sort of like the broken dreams of a town that could be felt like the right setting for what Jim and Amanda were going through, and it worked out for us.
Other audience question, right over here in the second row.
Is that dedicated, the name Amanda, for her?
The question was the name Amanda dedicated to Amanda Pete?
No, I never even thought about that. And now I'm getting I just got a lightning bolt of fear go through my body that Amanda may have felt like I wrote this with her in mind and then cast her best friend in the fucking movie, which is, I think I need to call Amanda right now.
I'll give you the phone. And
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
Did that ever?
No.
Okay.
It did occur to me.
You just scared the shit out of me with that. Okay. Good to know. Hey, you don't get 2 questions. Hey.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Aw, thank you.
Little Prince.
If you couldn't hear in the back, she congratulated Sarah on her Emmy and Alex on his socks.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing.
I'm sure those socks will be up for an award sometime soon. Up here in the front, yep.
I understand if you don't want to share it, but I would be very curious what the budget of the film was and getting more into producing.
We're still
Yeah.
being audited, so we can't release our budget.
Curious of
Yeah.
the budget of the movie. Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. They're really, really small. I can't share a lot of that stuff for a couple of different reasons, but we make them for the minimums. So.
Not enough, but they got it done. That's the answer you'll get every time.
Yeah.
But actually, a technical question along those lines. This was part of your deal with Netflix,
That's right.
correct? So they do help to get that ball rolling, like with some funding right from the beginning. How's
Yeah,
that
the
partnership
way things work with, I do 4 movies a year for Netflix, and so what that kind of means is basically like rather than make these independently and sell them at Sundance or Toronto like I've normally done, Netflix puts all these movies out, and then we have this great company called The Orchard who did the overnight for me, and they put them into theaters and video on demand for us. So we get to do kind of like a month or 2 of that stuff and let it have that life, because there is a special energy to it playing in the theater with sort of the laughter that happens. But I do think that what I'm discovering is little movies like this, the bulk of people are seeing them on Netflix. I know myself as a viewer, I've got little kids, and when I have a chance to take a chance on a movie essentially for free by just clicking on it, I take the chances on these kinds of movies, and I've kind of accepted that like this is one of the best ways to see these movies. So yeah, a select group of people will see it in the theater, a little bit more people will see it on VOD, and then millions of people come see them on Netflix, and that's kind of where I've made my career. It's a little bottom feedery, but I like it there.
Right over there, yeah.
I love that question.
Great
It
question.
happens every time.
How did we get Clu Gulager in the movie?
I love that people recognize Clu
Yeah,
Gulager.
so great.
He's a buddy of ours, and he kind of just embodies the heart of this movie for all of us. So I had to beg him, actually. He's retired, and I was like, please just come back and do this one little thing. And yeah, he came out.
He was like our spirit animal. Like
Yeah.
we shot with him like towards the end of our second day, and the energy of the movie is so awkward up until that point between us, and you feel that, and we're like, ugh. And that was during the time of the movie where we're like, God, is this going to be lyrical and poetic, or is it going to be boring? We don't know. And there was something about Clu showing up in the way he was and being that age and giving that romantic spirit and that energy that kind of emboldened us, and it was nice. It was kind of magical.
Another question? Yeah, right there.
Sarah, do you think that Amanda leaves Brett?
The question was, do you think that that her character leaves her husband and gets back together?
Well, that was the question, but also there was a very Jerry Springer-esque reaction in the crowd of, whoa. Sup, dog? What you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Well-
did you see what you just did to
I'm
this guy?
sorry. I don't think so. Think so.
Right.
I don't know it, but I don't think it.
Yeah.
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 Can we do like a vote, like those America's Got Talent shows?
Yeah,
where people
let's
have
do
to
it. How
dial
many
in
people
and
think
vote?
Jim and Amanda end up together? Yeah. Bunch of cynics in the room, everybody.
I guess Amanda's not
Ladies
that...
and gentlemen, Love is Dead in America in 2016. I'm Mark Duplass here with Blue Jay, the movie that broke hearts.
Maybe Amanda's just not that into pecs. Do we have another question over here? Yeah.
I think this is our last one, guys. Make it good. No pressure, but here we go.
What is something valuable you think you guys have absorbed from this experience?
Something valuable we've absorbed from this experience. For me, I don't think that this is a model that I should follow all the time because it's dangerous. But I did get a lesson that if I stop thinking about things so much and I just follow my gut and follow my instincts, that it is possible to make something interesting and relevant, and I think special in a different way. So it really emboldened me to say, oh my God, if deep in my gut I feel like there's something magical here, just strike out for it, and there's a chance you can win. And that was really, I'm like very, very proud of this movie. I found myself on these press tours. You just get beat down and you're tired of talking about the movie, and I never get tired of talking about this movie, and I think it's because of the way it was made.
I don't think anybody can say anything better than that. I mean, I really don't. I
You
agree.
could say that Jim and Amanda are going to get together.
I'm not going to say
could
that.
change your mind.
Not doing it.
Thank you guys once again.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.